Thanks, Brandis. Earlier in the program, we discussed the state's looming budget battle, and now we're joined again by State Representatives Will Davis and Tim Butler, and State Senators Sue Rezin and Elgie Sims. Appreciation to each of you once again. When we talked previously, Senator Rezin, you were trying to get something in about redistricting and these maps, which Republicans fear will be gerrymandered. What did you want to add?
Listen, as long as my colleagues across the aisle want to use the ACS as a point for drawing the maps, this is not a fair map. ACS data is simply an estimate. We have always used census data, which will be coming and available to us in September, so this fall, which still gives us plenty time to meet our constitutional deadline of October 4th to pass a fair map. So, you know, there should be no rush using this estimated data from the ACS. It has been proven in 2 other states that use it. It's been struck down at the state Supreme Court level.
And that is the American Community Survey versus the census data, delayed from the feds. Democrats want to get this map drawn, looking to the end of June deadline in which power would be given over to an independent commission.
Amanda, you said something interesting, delayed by the feds. That was the previous administration. We'd be well on our way had the previous administration not done what it had done to delay this process. And I think our objective is to try to pass something by May 31st. I think that's what we are supposed to do. And unfortunately, we may or may not be able to do that because of the feds. And that just changes the way the process then works across the board.
And I think Representative Davis is right on point. You know, the framers of our Constitution did not require that we have to use census data, but they said that we do have a responsibility to get the redistricting process done. The legislature does by June 30. Now we're going with whatever that data is that we're going to use. We haven't made that decision yet, but we do have an obligation. I think it's it's fair. To me, I think it's misleading for us to say that we don't have the June 30th deadline, because it's clearly delineated in our state's constitution that we do have a June 30th deadline for the legislature to redistrict. If we don't pass that map by the June 30th, then that process is turned over to a partisan commission that will then be in charge of drawing that map.
Commission, right? Evenly divided.
It's evenly divided, but if that commission does not come up with a map, then the 9th member is added to that commission, and you will get a very partisan result. Right now, you have the legislature in charge of that process. Both Democrats and Republicans are participating in this process, and we're going to continue. We're going to complete that process before the June 30 deadline.
So speaking of partisanship,
if the Democrats want to invite me in the room when they draw the maps, that would be a truly bipartisan process. Yeah, absolutely.
The maps are being drawn by the party in control as we speak. It is not an independent map, and it is, more importantly, not reflective of all of these different communities who were asked to go out into their community and get asked for census surveys. And the fact that they're not using the census surveys is disingenuous.
We'd certainly love to, if there is a map that the Republicans want to propose, we'd certainly love to see it. But you cannot just say no. We welcome you into governing with us, and we want you to be a partner, and we want you to be partners with us, and we've invited you in. That's why we're having these committees everywhere in the state, not just in areas controlled by represented by Democrats, but throughout the state. We are in Southern Illinois, we're in Northern Illinois, we're in Central Illinois, all throughout the state. So we welcome you in.
And participation has been robust.
This conversation, I think, very much shows the level of how much maps matter and also how much each of you care. So I wanted to also talk about, speaking of bipartisanship versus partisanship, the hopes were high for cross-aisle collaborations with Michael Madigan's ousting, but frustrations have boiled over in Springfield. Take a look.
We represent 5 million Illinoisans on this side of the aisle. 5 million. And our bills are being ignored. I'm sick of it. Sick of it.
Representative Butler, now that was you. Is that true frustration or just theatrics?
No, it was true frustration, and it really stems from a bill. It's a local bill that didn't get called last week. When I did my job as a legislator and got it through committee unanimously and hit the floor, and I worked the other side, and I had enough votes to get it, and it didn't get called. And I think that's the frustration that we really feel. Now, I'm passionate about my job, just like all four of us are, and my passion came out the other night, and luckily most of us had a pretty good laugh about it the next day. But it's certainly, you know, oftentimes in the legislature things get a little heated, and you know, I don't deny the fact that I was passionate about it and passionate about for the district that I represent.
Something that I expect is going to heat up before the end of May is what is going on with an energy package. We are not even a year out from ComEd admitting to a bribery scandal, and yet there's a possibility that customers for ComEd are going to see a rate hike, a subsidy. So may I please start with you, Senator Rezin? You in particular are backing a measure that appears to, according to a study released by the governor's office, an independent study, that would cover more money for ComEd's parent company Exelon to keep these nuclear plants open. So can you explain what is behind the reasoning for this subsidy? What do you tell constituents who are frustrated?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's important to understand that we receive over 50% of our power from the nuclear power plants. We have 6 plants in our fleet, the most in the entire country. I represent the energy corridor of America, so I have 3 of the nuclear power plants, but I have wind, solar, battery, coal, and combined cycle natural gas. I mean, energy is incredibly important, but it's also important to recognize that Illinois cannot meet its climate goals without nuclear in the energy portfolio. So if we would allow just 2 of our 6 plants to prematurely close, it would take over 35 years to replace that energy or that power with wind and solar. So these nuclear power plants are assets for the state of Illinois. They're depressed because of the market. We have a very competitive market. And if we want to achieve and reach our climate goals of reducing our carbon footprint, which is a bipartisan issue and bicameral issue, then we need to have nuclear online, which generates energy and power 24/7 each and every day of the week.
So a big battle ahead this legislative spring session. All we've got time for right now, but we've got the month of May to talk it over. Thanks, meanwhile, to State Representatives Will Davis and Tim Butler, as well as State Senators Sue Rezin and Elgie Sims.